There's a married couple, let's call them Ken and Jenny. They're traveling to their hometown. While making out, they almost hit a child in the middle of the road. Ken swerved the car and accidentally hit a couple while making love on the side of the road. The couple was very angry with Ken, even though he had apologized. Ken offered them compensation money and offered a man named Jackson $1,000. But Jackson wasn't satisfied with that and asked for more money, which Ken refused to give. Jackson almost hit Ken, but luckily, Ken's childhood friend Dennis happened to pass by and help Ken. Unfortunately, Ken's car was damaged from the collision, and there is no repair shop nearby. Dennis offered them to stay at his house, and they agreed. At Dennis' house, they had dinner and sharing stories about their experiences in the Vietnam Wars. When they got to their room, Ken wanted to make love to Jenny, but he couldn't perform. Ken felt very disappointed and frustrated, and apologized to Jenny. Feeling unsatisfied, Jenny left the room to fulfill her desire. Dennis accidentally saw Jenny. Realizing Ken's presence, Jenny felt embarrassed and left immediately. The next morning, Dennis invited them to take a tour to the city, and Jackson saw them accidentally. That night, they had dinner together again, and drink until they are drunk. Ken, who was very drunk, decided to go to bed first, leaving Dennis and Jenny alone to talk. Jenny felt uncomfortable and left Dennis to take a bath. Dennis secretly peeked at Jenny when she was bathing, and suddenly, Ken caught Dennis. Dennis thought Ken would be very angry with him, but instead, Ken asked Dennis to sleep with his wife. Ken explained that he was important due to an explosion during the Vietnam Wars. He said that if he didn't have a child soon, his brother will take all his inheritance. Of course, Dennis refused his friend offer, but Ken insisted. He offered Dennis $10,000 to do it, and promising another $10,000 if he managed to impregnate his wife. Dennis finally accepted Ken's offer. Jenny overheard their conversation and did not reject their plan. That night, Dennis finally slept with Jenny in front of her husband. The next day, Dennis gave Jenny a gift, but Jenny refused it, saying she only loved her husband. Upset being rejected, Dennis forced Jenny to make love. At first, Jenny resisted, but eventually found herself enjoying it. Ken, who came home early, accidentally saw them and very disappointed. Suddenly, Jackson and his son came and recorded them making love. Dennis tried to seize their camera but failed and was beaten. Jackson threatened them, demanding $20,000 or he would spread the video. Dennis tried to fight with them, but his efforts were in vain. Ken entered the room and threatened to report them to the police, but Jackson and his son were not afraid. Jackson countered by threatening them, claiming that all the police in town knew them. Jackson also demanded $200,000 from Ken. Ken asked for time to collect that amount of money. Jackson didn't believe Ken and took Jenny as a hostage, promising to return her when Ken paid up. At Jackson's house, Jenny was forced to make love with them. Jackson's wife, who initially pretended to be kind to Jenny, helped with their action. After Jackson was satisfied, it was his son Jimmy's turn. However, Jenny managed to hit Jimmy and tried to escape from the room. But unfortunately, Jackson's wife stopped her. The three of them even tortured Jenny mercilessly. The incident left Jenny feeling very dirty and desperate. A few days later, Ken came with $200,000. Jenny finally reunited with Ken, but Ken suspected that Jenny had been mistreated by them. However, Jackson and his wife claimed they had treated Jenny very well and eventually returned the video recording to her. On the way home, Jenny suddenly vomited, and Ken took her to the doctor. It turned out she was pregnant. Ken was very happy to hear this, but unexpectedly, when Ken left, the doctor told Jenny that she had syphilis. If she didn't have an abortion, she would give birth to a deformed baby. Initially, Jenny wanted to tell Ken everything, but seeing Ken so happy, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Suddenly, Dennis came to see Jenny, but Ken stopped him and gave Dennis the remaining payment. Dennis insisted on meeting Jenny, but Jenny also told Dennis to leave. That night, while Ken was asleep, Jenny went to the bathroom and tried to abort her pregnancy. Ken suddenly woke up and finally learned what had really happened. He immediately went to Jackson's house with a rifle for revenge. But when Ken was about to shoot them both, Jackson's wife suddenly hit Ken with an axe. They finally dump Ken's body on the side of the road. The next day, Janice and Dennis learns about Ken's death. After the incident, Dennis asks Jenny to live with him. Jenny agreed on the condition that he would kill Jackson for her. Initially, Dennis agreed, but after sleeping with Jenny, he changed his mind and left. Jenny finally decided to take revenge by herself. First, she trapped Jackson's son and ended his life without resistance, then hanged him. Next, Jenny easily killed Jackson's wife when she was off guard. Only Jackson remained. Initially, Jackson managed to resist, but after a long fight, Jenny finally ended Jackson's life. Although she succeeded in avenging herself, Jenny still felt desperate and purposeless. She finally decided to end her life by jumping off a cliff.